has got his own. Please be seated. We are about to begin. Thank you.
Nice chatting.
Yeah, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
I just want to check. You're recording this, right? This talk?
It's the audio is being recorded.
Okay. I'm a video person, that's why.
Good evening. My name is Metivier, and it's an honor to welcome you tonight as we celebrate band and the Future Band Museum. My connection with band began in 2014. I was invited to this wonderful lady, and since then my gallery and band have worked closely together on different projects and continue to do so. We have the privilege of representing 3 artists through band, and that is Moses Salabu, who's quite a lot of his work on me, Emmanuel Ozoho, and Oligo, and Napoli We just finished a great project in Paris, curated by Josephine, who works here, and with 5 artists, they came to us and it was really great. The band museum renovation, which is really what we're here to talk about, led by Diamond Schneider architects, and Don Schneider is very kind to say a few words. It's one of the most important cultural projects for Toronto and for Canada right now. It deserves to be shared widely, and that is why we're here this evening. To help tell this story, we hired David Hartman, was created a film that captures the spirit of band and the vision for the future. It's a story that extends far beyond its moment, one that we hope will inspire many more people to support and engage with band and band's activities and vision. So at this point, we've got my film. It's a short film. This is one of the most important cultural projects in Toronto and Canada right now, and through my gallery's relationship with band, and especially with Karen, I've done a lot, and that's why we're here tonight. And Don and his firm have been terribly supportive for the studies. So, I'm going to turn over to the speakers. The first speaker is going to be Don. As you, some of you know, he's one of the big wigs at this club. Yeah, chief honcho. Otherwise known as principal of Irish Minot. Wait a second. We'll share. He's gonna talk about it, which is great. And
Nicholas, you need a microphone.
right, sorry. Oh. Okay. So here we have Shelley Faulkner. I'll call her just it's too long a title, Shelley. I'll call you the director of the Archive of Hamilton. She's going to lead the panel discussion after Dawn. The four founders, brave people. Karen Carter, who we all know now. Just met Karen Terrell, Julie Brooks from the AGO, and Maxine Bailey, who also I just met, but I heard what's about. And these were the people that came up with this concept that we are now wanting to help with you to grow. And the home is the new place. So please join me in welcoming Dawn Schmidt.
Thank you, Nicholas, and good evening, everyone. I'm actually very, very happy that you all made the time to come and join us this evening and hear from the founders and Shelley about the mission and importance of band. Band, I think as you heard in the film, has been so active in the community for well over a decade, much more than a decade, and on Brock Street at 19 Brock for about 10 years. And I think in that sense, band has the contribution that has begun in a very kind of low-key way and is growing and strengthening has been enormously important for spawning and supporting the opportunity for the artists that you see in this room and far beyond. They really focused on building opportunities for artists, for facilitating the first exhibitions that artists have had that have set them on a path, facilitating dialogue within the Black community and about the artwork of its being produced in such rich depth, focusing on Black identity, and really, in a sense, creating the support to launch a number of careers and support careers of community. And I think what
I know you well enough to know that this is not just an unrecorded event. This means something.
the band's key has been to provide an environment which creates community and creates a place of welcome. And I think those fundamental principles of being welcoming, embracing, and building connections is really fundamental to the success. I love the idea that and Karen mentioned it in the film, of the kind of house museum, a home gallery, a domestic scale. It's intimate, it's accessible, it's approachable, it's also possible, and it really bridges and creates that space for community to get together, and a very important context and scale in which to look at the work. I think, as I mentioned in the film, that we love to work in the cultural sector, in the performing arts, but also in the visual arts. And sometimes it's at a large scale, and sometimes it's at a medium scale. But it's really wonderful when it's at a kind of small, direct, connected scale. And that ability to, in a very direct way, support something happening is powerful, and it makes the kind of work exciting and worthwhile. And I should say the key person who has made the work happen in our office is Dami Akinbode, who is here. Dami's parents are here from Nigeria, just visiting, and you dragged yourself here from holiday to be here. But Dami has been instrumental in the kind of design and development and execution of this design. And I think it's been part of a very important process to try and make it happen. So again, very happy to kind of hear about the story and the conversations that band has supported for so many years and will continue in a much stronger way with all the support that can be gathered for the facility on Brock. It's going to be a remarkable, remarkable place. And with that, I'll pass it over to Shelley and the panel. So thank you very much.
So I've had many a lunch with Karen, some good, not so good. And sometimes she's kvetching about other people, but sometimes she's freaking out about this project because it's a big risk, it costs money, and all that stuff, which I can understand. So my thing to Karen was build it and they will come. I've known this young lady since 1985. She worked for Evelyn Amos in Yorkville and I was at the Miracle Gallery. So we have history. Shelley Faulkner.
I know all the secrets. Nick is a wonderful, wonderful person and also such an important part of our scene in Canada and has done incredible, incredible things, including the support for Karen and her band, and a big supporter, and helps me. He's been incredible about supporting me with the Art Gallery of Hamilton and whatever silly thing or bizarre thing I'm involved with. And Nick will go, what are you doing now? But he's always there. So Nick, big appreciation and big kudos to you as well. So we're fortunate to have an incredible group, a powerhouse of women that I feel very humbled by to be even sitting in that chair beside you all. Beginning with Karen Terrell, who is a very well-known communication specialist, has worked with incredible organizations like Sony and all kinds of organizations, incredible publicist. Julie Brooks. Your title is so long at the UGM. Can I just say, curator for 2017 of the first department and first curator ever at the UGM. And I'm probably going to say all wrong, so don't test him. But African Caribbean diaspora, something like that. Okay. Okay. Maxine Bailey. I mean, everyone knows who you are. But of course, as executive director of the Film Center, you are doing incredible work. Wherever you go, you do incredible work. I'm always kind of intimidated and scared of people. Because of the glasses. I don't know. No, but really, it's an honor to be with you. And of course, all of us. We're all here because of Karen. All this is possible because of Karen. Karen and I have often thought about, when did we meet? I'm not sure. But we know that we're Jamaican sisters. We feel like we've known each other forever. We can't figure out when it was, but it was a long time ago, and we just fell in love with each other. We always have. And we have a thing, which is, can you take a call right now? It could be 2 in the morning. It could be like 6 in the morning. I would take the call, and she would take the call. And having friends and colleagues like that, especially in this sector, is extraordinary. Because it's hard what we do. And you're women of color, it's really hard. And just to give some context about what you have done, what these women have done, what everyone who participates and supports. I started out in this sector now. Okay, Nick, don't correct it, but it's about 30 years ago, I'm not sure, okay? And, you know, when I started out in Canada and then over in the UK and Europe, as a curator, museologist, and educator, and very serious about what I was doing, this didn't exist, not in Canada. I'm from Montreal, I'm from Quebec. And with Jamaican heritage, my father is Jamaican, my mother Jamaican, this wasn't possible to see. And as someone who would bring forward artists who were Haitian or, you know, African, it was, you would just get this look like, well, who's going to buy this? Like, I don't know, why did you bring this artist forward? So to be able to create space where this is possible now, where this is, when certainly as these cultures have been so, as my father, who came here as a student at McGill University in the 1950s, along with so much of the Caribbean diaspora, and did his graduate work there, his PhD, very much part of the Canadian fabric, and many, many others before. So this is critically important, and that's why what you have done has taken off in such a big way. So again, to get a little bit of background, this is 15 years ago now that you started this. Do you realize that? It's been 15, okay, I know, it takes a village, but it has been 15 years since when this all started. And look where you're heading, look where you're going, look what your North Star is. So I guess my first question to the panel, and maybe we can start with Karen. When you think back, can you share an early memory? Can you share a thought about what happened early?
I'm gonna throw to Maxine because of the photo on the wall. Back one. Yeah, that one. Hold it there.
So, I don't know if everybody remembers where they were on January 20th, 2009. That was Obama's first inauguration. I called in sick that day because it was a holiday for me, an international holiday. And I was with a friend and we were just going to go around and celebrate this inauguration around the city. And we convinced Karen Carter. We kept calling her when she was at work at Metro Hall. We're like, come, we're here now. Come, we're here now. This is not more fun. And so we ended up just going to all these different places, and it didn't matter how old you were, what the race was, everybody was kind of celebrating this unique moment in time. And we ended up, at the end of that evening, quite late, drinking grappa in the back patio, or no, we were hiding somewhere, and we were up with Roberto, and he turned at Brownell, and he turned to us, and there were three of us at the time, and he went, "Who's our Obama? Do we have one here? Is there one in Toronto?" And that was the nucleus and the beginning of what you're seeing today. It was all about community, it was all about reaching out to people, and we said, we don't know who our Obama is, and maybe there isn't one, or maybe there is one. And he offered quite generously his restaurant and meals and wine for up to 50 people. That's that. And it was a mixed group. The 4 or 5 of us got together and pulled together a list of names. This is a long time ago, so we had Rolodexes and phone books, and we put together this list, and we reached out to people. And what was great is, we asked the question, Karen asked the question at the beginning of the evening, and everybody was just so in awe of living in a time where Obama got elected, that everybody wanted to talk about how it impacted them personally, what it meant to them, what it meant for their kids, what it meant for their future. And we had something in that moment. And then fast forward to people calling us months later going, "When are you doing this again?"
I would say that moment for me, I think a lot of us who were left of center or center in our politics, or as the Canadian word, which I was reminded by someone earlier, the red Tories, the fiscally conservative and socially liberal folks, that I think is much more defines our Canadian cultural political landscape. The thing outside of this African-American man becoming president was also, for me, the thing that struck me was the element of the hearkening to Jackie O and President Kennedy was the what do you do for community? So how are you contributing? And so the impetus, as Maxine said, for me was, okay, what can we do? And because we are all cultural workers at different scales, it was do we actually believe that art and the creative sector is a means for change? And I think that was the thing that we all believed in common, that we weren't gonna find somebody and fund a political career that was in our lane, that other people do that. But the thing that we could do was use the sector we were in and the tools that we had, which was how to create a space to show basically the power artists and creatives have to influence community, identity, and frankly, social and cultural well-being for society. So that, for me, was how that moment was connected to what we seeded. I'll throw to Julie or Karen.
I think you covered it all. The photograph is so many memories back. But I think part of this was also how could we be of service? Because I think we kind of glommed onto one of Obama's earliest speeches, which is about how can you be of service to your community? And I think we tossed that idea, that question around, and we spitballed a lot of ideas. Do we start something like this? What about this? And finally, we kind of came to a consensus that what we need to do is form this, UCPC organization. We don't know where it's going, but I think we were all in on how can we leave eventually a legacy based on the things that we do, not fully defined yet, but knowing that its heart was in the cultural sector, that we all forward brought so many different networks, so many amazing ideas, even brainstorming around the name band, right? Karen, you came up, and this was on you. Like, what acronym can we use that people remember?
We started with BAD,
Yes.
Black Artist Dialogue, and then we were like, BAD is not good. The whole thing with Michael Jackson's BAD, and the whole.
But I think that the acronym of dialogue across sectors, across mediums, across generations and genders, and really helped us to kind of further develop this idea. So.
When I look at that photo that was on that store, I feel very emotional about it because I remember being so excited that evening, excited about what had happened in the U.S. and then from the conversation, excited about what we could possibly do together. And my job is all about possibility. I work in production, I work in film. So it's about a lot of people coming together from different crafts and making something happen. That process has always been exciting to me. And to think about the opportunity to do something like that with 3 people that I have known for a long time, very well, and know their skills and their passion about the arts, made me more excited. I have been in organizations before, and they had, went that way, and then petered out. But there was, I think maybe it was the Obama thing that made me think, we have a real moment here. We got this. We can do this. And I must give Karen credit because obviously we're 4 women with 4. We have jobs. We have things that we do, and so. But Karen has been the thread through all of this. The 3 of us, we step in, we step out. A lot of the times in the early years, I wasn't even in the country, so I was hearing about it from afar, or just putting my 2 cents from afar. But we knew that we were going somewhere, and we didn't quite know how we were going to get there, but we knew that we were working on something that was going to be big and that's what I think of when I look at that.
That's interesting, and one of the pieces I'm picking up from what you're all talking about is really the power of the arts, the power of all of you coming together, that moment, context, what was going on in the United States, Obama. It's interesting to contrast with you today, but we can remain hopeful, always. But what you're really talking about is soft power, which is what the arts do, what they're all about. And when I think of milestones, and I can think of one, for example, and that's just one, but it'd be great for you to share along the way, over these past 15 years, moments when you went, oh my goodness, like I knew. And I know for me, what you have been doing quietly, as always Karen does, except when she's angry, you have through band been organizing this incredible thing with the Caribbean meetup and art fair. You've been bringing together filmmakers, artists, thinkers across the diaspora, whether it's in the UK or Canada, to Jamaica for these, wonderful weeks that I get invited to. I said, as long as it's not in the winter, do not plan it in the summer. And again, Karen has organized all this through band, and she organizes every few years, and they're extraordinary every single time. So I'm just giving you an example, and to me that's soft global power. When I think of context and where we're at right now with all the issues as a country, that's so important what you're doing through band. It happens physically with what you're doing here in Toronto, but then you're also taking it out. Do you want to share a milestone for you?
I mean, I think my fellow co-founders can speak to the ambition originally was about, we are global women. We love to travel. When we travel, we're going to see things based on our love of culture. I always say that I'm lucky to work in a sector I volunteer in. If I, won a few million tomorrow, I'd need a few to take care of band and then have fun for me. I would do the work I do and just not have to think about the money, because this is what I'm interested in. So for me, that blessing in connecting the work we're doing locally to what we know is necessary globally. Any of us who are engaged with the culture sector knows it's a global marketplace. And the Canadian market is a relatively small one within the global. And so for any Canadian artist, it's really important to be a part of that global network. And so being lucky enough to have family that's in the Caribbean and to have an access to, frankly, their networks. My aunt and uncle have, when the major brain drain of what a lot of us now know is connected to the Windrush migrants, they were a few who stayed, and my aunt and uncle was the youngest sibling of my dad stayed, and so they built a life there and really strong network. And to be able to leverage that so that, one, I won't lie, happy to be in the Caribbean in January, February, never mad at that. But also just that ability to give back there, but also to help increase the artists who were here network to the global marketplace. So this lovely exchange became a part of it. I think that became possible because that only started in 2020 because, and I'll let my co-founders speak to some of this, we've been working globally, but we were bringing global artists here. So we got to the point where it's like, you can't bring folks here and not push our artists out. So Nicholas mentioned the show in Paris. That is part of the dream of being able to have this landmark as a home base so that we can keep to help our artists who are of African descent through the diaspora or indigenous Africans who are living here, like our Danny, to get out in the world, to be here and there and to be connected to that global marketplace. So the work in the Caribbean is really starting to, from 2010 to 2020, we're looking at 10 years, and then you're thinking, you'll see in the photos there, and a lot of this is, I saw photos of me where I was like, I could see where those extra pounds. But, Donald's first time you laughed all evening. But we were, like from 2014, Gordon Parks, even before the partnership with Gordon Parks, we were doing that work, and it was, how do we get our artists out in the world? Because frankly, when you're traveling, I found that people would talk about African American artists, not Canadian. And I was like, how do we make sure the Canadian artist is part of this conversation? I don't know who wants to go next. International.
I think some of our soft power, outside of all the wonderful things we have done over the years, is ownership of the building, of an actual space. I think that was kind of front and center when we discussed what land could be. I think we did pop-ups before anyone talked about pop-ups. We were peripatetic. We would go to pillar to post until we found we were on Moore Street. Remember the storefront. But then I think Lansdowne to me was the milestone. That faith that Scotiabank had in us to create something that had this kind of solid base in a building. It was a huge building. I don't know how many square feet that we had to program and curate and invite community in and foster artists and kind of wedge ourselves into the sector and create a kind of credibility because Scotiabank was looking at us and other people were looking at us. So for me, that is kind of a significant milestone that leads us to this point.
Okay, so it was a Sunday morning when we went to see the house at 19 Rock. We walked in and I looked around and I'm like, I think this is the house. I think we just felt it immediately that this was the place where we could finally plant ourselves and truly grow. And I will always be grateful, of course, to Scotiabank for giving us the space on Lansdowne because we were able to solidify our community. We were able to do a whole bunch of things that we were not able to do in the other places that we were. And then when they decided, Scotia, that they were going to get rid of all of their, brick and mortar spaces, and we're like, oh, crap. That was not the word I used at the time, but that's what I'm going to say now. And we were stuck. We didn't know what we were going to do. We thought we would buy the building ourselves. That did obviously not work out because we didn't have access to that money. We did not. And then when Scotiabank decided, hey, yeah, we know we messed you up, and this is what we're going to do, and gave us access to funds so that we could buy the house on Rock. It was incredible. It was kind of like, obviously a gift, but for the sweat, the tears, all of the things that we had done leading to that point, it was gratifying to know that we had done well enough for them to say, you guys are worth it, what you're doing is worthwhile, we're going to finance the next part of what you're doing.
And what's important about that and what you're all saying, because one of the things I wanted to probe with you was the significance of that site, that house, especially what's now being built by Diamond Schmidt, is that came about because of your vision, because of your tenacity, but also because corporate Canada believed in you. But, and I know this for a fact, and those of you in the room that work in our sector, corporate Canada does not do that unless you proved yourselves, right? I mean, the old thing of philanthropy doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, it does with folks that are here tonight, I'm sure, and certain philanthropists. But when corporate Canada does that, they see that you're doing something important for community, because those are usually market decisions. That's why they make those decisions. So they knew They don't take banks don't gamble. They knew you were doing something solid that was important, right?
I would say that the tenacity that is on this dais is quite incredible. I think we all come from, Karen mentioned it, the Windrush kind of generation. We're all places at a certain age. We had family members who left their original homes and in certain cases moved to 2 or 3 different countries. Each one of those countries informed them, and it informed who we are. And I was always told by my grandmother when I was living in Barbados for a few years, never let anybody tell you no. And I think we've all heard that in some way or form, and we've all been told, especially Asians, not to let anybody define you. And so I think that actually has driven us. But what was actually incredible for all of our little stops along the way in creating what is now banned, when we did literature because we're all naturally curious, we all read a lot, we did art, there was music, we did a bit, there was fashion, we did all these things, but we were building audience, we were building community, and we had huge expectations of ourselves. But then we realized the audience had bigger expectations of us. And they were the ones that were helping us. They were providing support, and they were supporting us. And I think it's our background, our upbringing, and there was the drive and the passion that we all collectively had that allowed people to come along for the ride. And they were just really excited about any or everything we did. Because when we went from fashion to music to art, people were like, yeah, we'll go for it. We'll come along. Are you moving over here? We'll go there. I mean,
Because you were agnostic. You understood the power of the arts. And in fact, what you're describing is truly a 21st century museum. You're describing what a lot of, because I know, because I've worked with them, Julie has too and does, that's things that very colonial, traditional art museums try to figure out how to do. And they struggle. It's super hard. What do you mean we have to bend to community? What do you mean we have to start? But you actually came from community. So, any last thoughts, any of you to share in terms of those moments or from the photographs that we have rolling in front of us that you'd like to share as sort of last thoughts before we open it up to some Q&A?
Well, I mean, it's on a loop, so it's going so quickly because you can't really get the breadth and range and richness and like variety of the events that we did, and the people that came to Toronto as a result of us. Ruth Carter at the Room, at the Bay, Don Lemon at TIFF, interviewed by a CNN producer, Torre at the Arts and Letters Club. Who else? James Garner, John Singleton, jump in anyone, because there's a lot.
Yeah, for me, Van Lee is a central part of our growth in the fine art sector as far as the visual arts piece, because obviously there are people, we started in 2010 and we were on Bloor Street, and because of the relationship with Scotiabank, some of you remember, now retired Jane Noak, she was the one that made the introduction with the Lunch with Nicholas when the Gordon Parks Foundation was coming into Canada. And because of the work we had been doing with them, she was like, you guys would be the perfect partner. And she had also helped with, frankly, we had some issues with landlords who apparently the word black and artist meant problems, so we couldn't get another storefront because we tried. We thought we'd just keep doing that. But when she spoke to her colleagues at Scotiabank, they said we can help, and as stated, we were able to secure that space. So when the intro came to Nicholas, I still remember people leaving and saying, good luck. And they were like, you could understand, it's Gordon Parks. Where do you go after Gordon Parks? And so they were kind of like, good luck. And I remember the bank executive, John Doig, saying, don't burn the place down, but good luck, because what do you do after this? I'm sure it'll be fine, but you know, what do you do? And I was like, you don't know us. Because I know, even if I didn't know somebody, one of these brilliant ladies our network would know someone. So the introduction to Vandy came from, again, we're travelers, we're creatives, we're always going to something. And we met Vandy through a colleague in the UK, and then he was like the perfect response to Gordon Parks because he was documenting the community in a way Parks would have been in the US. And as stated, because of the Windrush Network, he was from that generation. So there was a way kind of double entendre to make sense to us. But I won't drag on because I know we want to make time to move, and we want you to be able to talk to us and each other and ask some questions. But again, for me, this place and this experience is both about our legacy of what we are able to create for the next generation. And so I would be remiss in not giving the nod to Josephine and Claudia. My comfort in this moment to know that my responsibility and our responsibility is to set them up to be successful. We don't need to, and again, very much the Caribbean raised women, we would not do everything even if we could. They've got to, scrape their knee and make their own mistakes and figure things out, but you want to, as any great leader should, set the next gen up for the next step. And so this working this hard to close this gap, to bring this space into life, is about knowing that there is this next wave of leadership that will scale to the next level, and wanting to be able to visit, write the check to support annually, maybe take a lunch where needed, but being in a position to really feel like, okay, this was legacy, because we haven't said it, but I will. My introduction to these four women was an organization called CANBAIA, Canadian Artists Network, Black Artists in Action. And Karen's reference to seeing things go the way of the donor board was one of those. And that stayed with me. I remember coming out of university, and that was the way I inserted myself into the arts sector, because there was a safe space with other Black creatives to get to understand the landscape. It wasn't where I had to stay, but it was where I could start. It was my entry point in. So band has to be that entry point, but it also has to be the connective tissue, and it has to be able to put your foot sometimes in the back of the artist and say, okay, go, you don't need us anymore, go make hay. And we'll be here if you need us, but you gotta go out in the world. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, everyone. Some of you have, we do all kinds of things. Band has been a wonderful way for us to add to our collection at the Art Gallery of Hamilton, bringing incredible artists that we in turn have been able to bring into our collection. Whether you can open your wallets and support what's happening, or maybe there's something we haven't thought about, please do approach and let us know. But it'd be great right now to open it up to some questions.
Are we allowed, Nicholas?
Are we allowed, Nick? Or Nick's the boss?
Nicholas,
Yes.
There.
he's getting a drink.
Yeah, do it.
I think he's going to introduce us. So the questions, can we do questions and answers? Yes, we have time. Okay, any questions from the audience?
I got a question.
Nick has a question.
When do you hope to have the building finished?
January 2026. January 2026.
That's when we open.
And the architects are nodding. We have a really amazing builder and a really clear path. It's really just the slow or fast is about the money right now. We actually literally just figured out something with the water main from the city, so it's literally now just.
And you're almost there, so everyone, there isn't much more, like you don't need much more. So
We're half, it's, we need another 1.5.
The other
There you
thing,
go.
the other thing that you need, Karen, you need to mention are the hard hat tours that we're going to start.
Yes, we have hard hat tours if you want to come see what I saw. And it's gone a lot further. I think by the time you would be seeing it, windows will be in and all of the siding at the back. So it will look gorgeous, more gorgeous on the street. We're cognizant of our neighbors. Like what? Make it pretty, Karen. So we made it pretty outside. yeah, so yes, please do come and see. Josephine, Claudia, and Saffron are amazing at organizing. I'm lucky that I have a civil service job right now. I can manipulate my schedule any way I want. I can. I move the meeting around and just come meet you. They know. They're like, where's Karen? I'll be saving fans. Like, she'll be online till midnight.
Karen is Director of Culture and Museums, for those.
No, but I will be there, so please do come by. Seeing it will make it all make sense. Because when I walked through it, it was, I mean, I think I'm middle-aged in the tearing up. I don't know if there are other women that do this. I never cried, and all of a sudden I tear willy-nilly, like on camera. But yeah, it's really emotional to be in this space and to see the scale of it, to see how well the footprint has been used. So do please come see.
Thank you to all of you for being here tonight. That means a lot to all of
Another
us.
question?
There's another question. I didn't see it.
So it's only one features 1.5 million?
So picture.
That's possible, that's doable.
I love you for saying that.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for saying that.
Doable. So picture the COVID narrative, right? You start at one number, and then COVID hits, and now apparently because of the U.S. tariff situation, that's why we're like, no, we need to be done now, because we keep being told if you don't get done now, then it'll keep going up because the instability in the U.S. market is driving it, which is why we're saying to people, now, please.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
So anything you can do to help, anyone you know, anyone, a tip that you might have, please let Karen know.
There was one company that I worked with pre the current administration in the US, and this company actually arranged all the $5 dinners with Barack, and they raised $500 million using small, interesting little ways of fundraising. And I was lucky when I was working at TIP. I'm not offering them up, but I'm offering that there's a lot of smart people in this room who could find ways to divide that 1.5 million into manageable chunks. And so if a group of you got together and pledged to raise 200,000, and then they tell two friends, and so on, and so on, and so on, that 1.5 could definitely be locked by the end of this fiscal.
Of course.
If you raise the money, if you help us raise the money so we can invite them. They just had a film at the festival, so I'm sure they'd love to come to Toronto. But yeah, so I just think it's about the creative thinking within this room and telling your friends and finding ways. And if everybody, even if two of you say, we can raise $5,000, that will help chip away at money. So that's my answer.
Sorry, I was going to say, I have done this at the HU a couple of times, and I swear by it. There's so much power in numbers. And finding a creative way, it's not a burden on one person or two people, it could be 10 people. We did it with the Montgomery Caribbean Collection. Justice Donald McLeod was kind of, the kind of spokesperson for that. It is not impossible. So, yeah.
And honestly, we've done what we're told in the perfect world is how fundraising works in this sector. We started with the government and the corporate. So we had big chunks from those. So really we're at the moment now where they're waiting to see, okay, what can you do with the individual donors to take you over the hump? And so that balance of, what is it they say, the dream in culture is always 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, because then you know you have a real clear sense of, frankly, how you develop a strong legacy of funding. So we've been very lucky to benefit from, again, the federal government knowing us, seeing us, and seeing that this space has a unique place in the market. I think to your point, I think corporate has been supportive of us because we're not an artist-run center that's just paying artist fees. We're helping artists in this weird in-between space of selling work to help get their work into collections and institutions or making strategic intros for representation, but also still doing the museum shows. I think, as stated, we've benefited from not feeling like we get to follow anyone's rules about what we were to be. We just thought, what does our community need? And then we responded.
And I think you set an example by really contributing contributing to that cultural ecosystem in a unique way by not worrying about doing it cookie cutter stuff.
Well, I think it's also important to add that the house is actually based in Parkdale. And Parkdale is a community that has been a hub for immigration of people from all over the world. And we thrive. Our whole ethos is based in community. And to be able to have a space there that allows the people, young, old, and in between, that this to dream, to inspire them, to be creative, that it's a possibility for them. I think it's a very important part of where the house is and why we do what we do.
So thank you, everyone, and please feel free to approach. And I think we have Justice McLeod, who's going to close for us.
Nicholas, is that what we do next?
Yeah.
All right, hello everyone. Okay, I'm not preaching, so you're looking at me, I'm about to give you like the word, I'm not. I was asked by Karen to just chat a bit at the end and to see whether or not we understood sort of what we're doing here. I think the first thing to do is to thank these lovely young ladies, all 5 of them, but the 4 of them that I know that are part of the band, for the work that they've done. Thank you. So the words that sort of come to mind is, well, I happened to watch the video, and then I saw the video, and I saw Karen crying on the video, and as those of us who know Karen, then we know that's just so not a thing. And so, so for people who, I was coming up in the elevator, they were wondering, how do you know Karen? That's weird. Where do you know her from? And so Karen and I have known each other for a very long time because we actually grew up in the same neighborhood. And so we grew up in a neighborhood called Gilder. And so what it taught me, watching her on that video, is that these women have been very courageous in what it is that they're doing. I say that because there's a level of resistance that's in this room that all of them have. And you actually have to have that in order to do this. And so that resistance is seen in being able to be in spaces like this. Our homes when we lived at Gilder would have been half the size of this center room here. Yeah, a quarter of it. And it made me laugh because I started thinking, look at Karen trying to get a house. We barely lived in like an apartment that like had enough functioning things in it. But it made me see that this resistance was something that required the courage of all of them. I don't know everyone's story the same, I just know Karen's more so. But then what happened is that I understand that this courage, this resistance was very important. When you look at the art on the wall, when you look at the women that are sitting up here, you realize that that resistance becomes very important. That resistance also requires resilience. And so it meant then that they had to be able to do this from the corner of their desks in order to be able to, they all have the, as they say, full-time jobs. But you realize just doing this is a full-time job all on its own. If you've ever met Karen in a dark corner, she's going to talk to you at some point about band. I didn't even know what her job was. I just knew that band was what she, it's just band, is all I ever hear. Don't show this to employers. And so I realized though that in order to do this, they had to make sure that their jobs were secure and at the same time doing this, which was to be able to release the art into the atmosphere. And so I think it's commendable that they're able to do it this way. So then what next? I think the difficulty comes in that for so long, we and in this community have been going with hands out to get only hands full. The difficulty comes in that we have come together to do different things, but it means then that this struggle is saying, who's going to control what we decide is our art? Who are the ones that decide what goes out there? And so I think that, although is important, as important as what I'm going to say next. I think one of the things that's the most important is that when you look at the social context of Black people within this sort of, the confines of this country, for many years we were always remaining sort of infanticide. meaning that we were always working for someone. We were always children. We were never independent. We always had to hope that somebody gave us something so that we could go somewhere else. But what it meant was that there was someone else that was then controlling the levers of what we thought was good, what we thought was pure, what we thought was Canadian, what we thought was honest, and what we thought was authentic. I think the idea that we're now looking for self-determination is very important. And so when it is that we say, we want $1.5 million, we want X, Y, and Z, sometimes what happens is when people give you money, they say, oh, you can't tell us what it is that you actually want. And so I think that that narrative becomes very important when you're going out and you're asking for funds or you're putting things together, is that there is a very definitive idea that we must be self-determinative in anything that we're going to do. And so when it is that I've now met these particular women that are here, each one of them is not sort of like beholden to anyone else. They are literally their own style, their own way, their own manner of doing things. And so this may sound like a very funny thing, because what I'm saying is do this, but don't expect us to do everything that you want us to do. But why can't I say that? I think that the difficulty comes in that there is a pro forma that is established for how it is that you ask for things for people that are not from your community. I'm not doing that anymore. And maybe I won't have to be invited back. However, I think that what the narrative should be is that we're looking for self-determination, and that self-determination can come for us to be able to speak our own voices in the way that we want. We're asking for that help only because we realize that these walls are not in all of the homes that we've seen before. And so I had some young men come here recently, and you could see them looking at the walls and bewildered, because they're saying to themselves, why does it look like this in here? I don't understand, I'm confused. And remember, you have every week or every year when you're in high school, you always go and you visit the AGO, and you go to these different art museums, which all of these boys have done. They're boys going into grade 7 and going into grade 8, and some of them are in grade 9 and university students. But you could see them looking around and saying, I don't understand why it looks like that. And I think it's because they were realizing that this was something that was their own. And so I think the beauty of what I see up here is that these women have been very strong for a very long time. And I'm hoping that we don't have to make them beg. You know, there is something that comes with begging. When you come with I have to ask, I've got to cajole, I've got to get down on one knee, I've got to, jump and, Jimmy, crack home. Like, I don't want to do that. And when I'm watching them, I realize that there is an independence that comes not just with their honesty, but with their integrity. And so if it is that we're going to go out and we're going to ask and we're going to cajole and we're going to do those things, I ask that we don't. We should be able to stand on a principle that what is on these walls is Canada. And that the mere fact that we have not understood what Canada looks like is because these walls have not been decorated in all of these other places that we've been to. And so I ask that when we're asking for things, that we ask with integrity the same way that they have done it. And I watched them all, and they all sort of walk with a very refined idea of who they are. Not sort of kowtowing, not unwilling, perhaps, to just do things just so that it can be said that we did it and you gave it to us. And so when it is that I've seen them and I've been in this space, even for me, this space is fantastic. When I'm sitting up here and I'm watching them all, I am over the moon. Because I've actually seen them work hard, work tirelessly. So this room shouldn't just be a spot that we come to and then we drink some wine and eat some hors d'oeuvres. But really, let's be intentional around how we create the message that we've been talking about, how we narrate it to other persons, and how it is that we do the things that we want to do. The only last thing that I will say is there's a picture, and I don't want anyone to buy it. And so I can't find it right now. But there's two of them. This one over here with the men on that's not a good picture. Don't buy it. And there's another one with the fellow with the bike. Then we have a lot of talking to do. And there's another one. But I'm saying that to say they also are they're phenomenal in their eye. And so I've learned a lot from them.
So this is Josephine, not us.
Who's Josephine? Josephine, you're fantastic. Josephine, don't sell my painting. And on that note, I think the last thing I would say is thank you very much.